Welcome to the Lions Den. Today we will be recapping the Week 16 game against the Chicago Bears and previewing the Week 17 game, the Monday night game against the 49ers. So let's start with the Bears. Actually, let's start first with we missed a week. The Lions played the Bills. It didn't go too well. Uh, a great offensive performance. I give props to Jared Goff and Amon St. Brown almost had 200 yards receiving for keeping up, but it wasn't a performance that worth remembering. And, thankfully the week we missed was a loss. We don't have to ponder about a lot of that stuff. But you have any thoughts about that game that you want to share? Other than the injuries, because we're going to get to that.
I mean, honestly, they did better than I thought they would on defense. Like, despite us just being like totally like pretty much like sand on defense. I mean, I thought we did better than I thought we would. So, I mean, we were just so injured in that game.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
loss
agree.
is a loss, but
12-2 is still good. Or 12-2 at the time, now 13-2. But all right, let's go to the Bears game. Um, There's not really a ton to talk about, to be honest. Not any criticisms in this game. I don't really have any. It was a really well-rounded victory. The Lions were in control the whole time. Um, Goff had another great game. He had 336 yards, two touchdowns. He was 23 for 32, um, including a absolute bomb to Jamison Williams. I think it was 82 yards. JMO ended up with five receptions for 143 yards and a touchdown. That's his career high. Yeah, it's his career high for sure. He had a really good game. You have any performances you wanna or any thoughts that you wanna talk about?
for me, honestly, I think kind of something that's going under the radar is Christian Mahogany. I think his start was I think key in that victory. And with Jameer Gibbs being the number one back, you need good protection, getting the holes open for him. And I thought he did a really good job, even in pass protect. There were a few plays where he pancake guys. I mean, I just thought he had a really good start, and I think he should get his props for that.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm never gonna pass up the opportunity to commend a good offensive line performance. Mahogany, I mean, he was a guy that I was for sure gonna talk about because he was really good in this game. I can't remember exactly what his grades were, but he graded it out really well. And I was seeing him getting some national attention too. I know I sent you that video where there was a couple where he was helping Decker, I think it was, and he just,
Hmm.
I mean, just pancaked a couple guys. And those reps aren't something that a backup offensive lineman does. A guy who can do that as a starting offensive lineman. We can get into a further discussion about like, Graham Glasgow, the starting left guard, has his plays declined this year. Kevin Zeitler is on a 1 year deal. He's going to be a free agent, but it's going to be interesting to see what the Lions do with Mahogany because he had a really, really good performance. Uh, yeah, I'm going to be intrigued to see what happens because at the same time, you don't want to like throw in a young guy uh, into the fire, especially because he was a six-round pick. Although he was projected to go a lot earlier, but this is an old offensive line. I mean, Sewell's the only young guy. All the rest of them are 7, 8 year, nine, vets. So I was really intrigued by Mahogany's performance. All right, let's move on to you mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs had a really good game. This was really the first game where we saw him as the a true number one back. Last year when
Hmm.
Montgomery was hurt, he split carries with Craig Reynolds. Not split him, but Craig Reynolds got a big chunk of carries. I remember in the Tampa game, the
Yeah.
Baltimore game, and all those. But we were talking about this. We thought all the props on Reynolds, like, and his betting props were too low, but Jahmyr Gibbs was by far the number one back in this game. I mean, I think Craig only had like four carries. What'd you think about
Yeah.
Jahmyr's performance?
I thought Jameer, like, I don't think he had as many plays where I would be like, wow, that's a typical Jameer play. But I thought he kind of showed a lot of resilience in this game. He showed that he can be that, 4 yards, every single rush back, and go for 20 plus. Because again, I don't think I've really seen Jameer go like 20. It says 23 carries. I don't think I've seen that before out of him. So the fact that he could put up 109 and a rushing touchdown and 45 receiving yards, I thought that was very commendable for him.
Yeah, got you feeling nicey.
Got me feeling nicey.
Yeah, Jameer Gibbs had a really good game. I was kind of surprised how many. I mean, he had 100 over 150 all-purpose yards. Like you said, it didn't really feel like that just because he was so like it wasn't a necessarily explosive day from him. Like he didn't pop off any huge runs that I can remember off the top of my head, but yeah, really productive day. I mean, 109 yards on 23 carries is about 4.5 yards a carry. So that's a good day for Gibbs. Amon-Ra had a
Hmm.
pretty good game. He had 6 receptions, 70 yards for a touchdown. I love Dan Campbell, but how in the world did that game ball not go to Jamison Williams?
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Amon-Ra had a good game, but I mean,
I
yeah,
feel like I don't even know if JMO has JMO even gotten one before. Like maybe
I'd
week
assume he'd have to get
one,
one in the
like
first game. In week one, he
yeah.
was the reason we won that game. I mean, he was
I
about
mean,
the only good thing on offense until that
I don't
final
think I've seen
overtime
him
drive.
get anything.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure he got one. I think he's gotten one before, but yeah. I mean, Dan said he didn't have the stats this week, and it kind of shows because JMO had 150 yards. But all right, let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. Afatu Melifonwu's return. We had a discussion a couple weeks ago. I remember about whether this was whether we saw his last snap in a Lions uniform, and he made his return and he got a sack. I think he initially missed it, but he chased down Caleb from behind and had a shoestring tackle. This is what
Hmm.
this defense needs. This is what he excels at as a bigger, almost like linebacker type safety who can blitz. Kind of what they signed Jamal Adams to be. What'd you think of Ippy's return?
Hmm. I thought there were a few plays where I could see, it's his first game back. Like I think there were a few plays, in pass coverage where he kind of lagged a
Yeah,
little bit,
the
but
Keenan Allen play,
I
the
th-
Keenan Allen touchdown.
the Team Keenan Allen touchdown was kind of problematic for him.
Yeah,
But when you get a sack in a game, I think that automatically puts you kind of you had a pretty decent game if you have a sack, and
yeah.
that's what he's brought in to do from that safety position. So if he did his job and we can get sacks off the edge with him, he's going to be very crucial for us in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean he was a huge part of the defense at the end of last year. He had like a sack or a pick a game, it seemed like every week in
Yeah.
that last stretch. So yeah, and with all the injuries to the secondary, it's going to be crucial for him to return to that form that he was at last season. Speaking of the
Hmm.
secondary, we'll lose. I mean, everyone knows Carlton Davis is out for the year, so I had to switch around the secondary. I mentioned this to you. I wasn't sure if they were going to do it, but I said I'd rather have Amik Robinson play outside corner and then move Branch to the nickel now that Iffy's back and put Iffy at safety. And that's what they did, and
Hmm.
it worked out well. Amik Robinson had a really good game against a good receiving core, 8 tackles, and he had 2 PBUs. Um, he was really good this game. I was really impressed.
Yeah, I think a lot of times with Amik, his instincts I think get the best of him because he always wants to jump,
Yeah, he's a
jump the
ball hawk.
route, or he wants to, he's like super aggressive, and
Hmm.
even more aggressive than Terrion. And honestly, in this game, I think he just kind of held back from that. Not that he wasn't aggressive, but I think he knew the right times to be aggressive in this game, and it really showed. And I sure hope he can play like this for the weeks to come.
Yeah, especially an outside corner. When
Yeah.
you're gonna have to face, I mean, in the playoffs, you might have to face AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, or Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Mike Evans, any of those guys, DK Metcalf. Like, there's a lot of good receivers in the NFL, and Amik being a even an average corner, outside corner is going to be crucial, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Terrion, I like to mention him. He that play where the Keenan Allen touchdown, that was like
That was a
it,
weird play. That
yeah,
was a weird
he kind of bit
coverage
on
play.
it, but it was his fault. It was also Iffy's fault. Iffy should have been, like back there helping him, but he
Yeah.
had that rep against DJ Moore in the end zone where he went, I mean, I'm not sure if you remember
Yes.
it, but in the
Oh
corner of
my
the end zone,
gosh. I remember
that
that.
was a CB1 rep. That was a rep.
Yes.
That's something that not a lot of corners in the NFL can do. So that'd be really optimistic.
Yeah. And
All right.
honestly, like I think you're starting to see Terrion's evolution now. He's starting to look back at the ball, and I think
Yeah.
that's got me feeling dicey more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
I
for
really love
sure.
that from him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's never like I said, he's never burnt. Like he never gets burnt. He's always there. He just doesn't turn his head around. He's extremely young. I think he came out as a redshirt sophomore. I know he only had 3 years in college, but a really young guy, and his he's can be undisciplined at times, but his like prowess as an outside corner and stuff we've seen like that, it's rare. It's rare to get a guy with his skills. So.
Yes.
All right. Anything else you want to add about this game or anyone else you want to touch on?
I mean, I think it's just, one of those Lions wins where you're like, yep, I expected them to win this game. Let's go on to the next.
Yeah, I mean, they took care of business. I was texting my friend who was a Bears fan, and he's like, I don't feel so good about this game. And I was like, I hate to break it to you, but the Lions never lose 2 games in a row, so you can just chalk this up as an L. Um,
Yeah.
so that's one of the most amazing. That might be the most amazing thing about the Dan Campbell era is that stat that they haven't they haven't lost 2 games in a row in over 2 years now.
That's insane.
All right, let's move on to injuries and transactions. So let's start back for last week. Aleem McNeil tore his ACL against Buffalo. He's out for the season.
Dude.
Yeah, you can't really magnify how big of a loss this is. He was having an all pro level season. Yeah, it's tough for sure.
That just rips your heart out of your chest when you hear
Yeah.
that. Because, like, he earned that contract.
Hmm.
And dang, man, I like that hurt me. Because, like, now our now our D line is just more screwed than ever.
Yeah. And I mean, torn ACL in week 15. I mean, he's not going to be ready for training camp. He might not even be ready for week 1, which is I mean, that's another discussion, but yeah, that's a bad break for a guy that stepped up. I mean, stepped up is an understatement. He's a all pro level defensive tackle, but yeah, that's a big loss right there. The good thing is they got Levi and Josh Pascal back, so the defensive line isn't as injured, like as many bodies. But I mean, Lee McNeil was the best player on the defensive line by far after Hutch got hurt. So brutal
Yeah.
loss. Speaking of another brutal loss, Carlton Davis fractured his jaw. Uh, he was out. I saw 6 weeks, but from what Dan Campbell said, I don't know. He doesn't seem too optimistic that he's going to return. It's a weird discussion. I know we've had this discussion in the past about what's going to happen to him in the offseason because he's going to command a big contract. I mean, he's a CB1 in this league. And yeah, I mean, if this was his last snap, I was completely fine with that trade. He lived up to his potential or what. Yeah, honestly, he was better than I thought he was going to be. But yeah,
Hmm.
really great season for Carlton. Hopefully we can have him back. I don't know because there's so many extensions. I mean, Kirby, Hutchinson, JMO, like Kevin Zeitler is going to be a free agent. Like there's a lot of guys that are up iffy. So we'll see. Derek Barnes, I mean, the list goes on and on with the way Brad Holmes drafts. So we'll see with Carlton, but hopefully we can get him back for the end of the year because a veteran CB1 like him, I mean, he was a CB1 on a Super Bowl winning team in Tampa. So he has
Hmm.
that kind of experience, that kind of skill. Hopefully we can get him back. Khalil Dorsey with just an absolutely brutal injury. Uh, broke his leg or fractured his ankle, I believe, and he's out for the year. Uh, That sucks. Khalil Dorsey was a guy that I didn't really know about him. He just kind of like showed up on the Lions roster one day, it felt like last year. And he carved out a role. I mean, he was almost a lock
Hmm.
this year for his special teams, for his kick return and special team ability coming into this offseason. Like he was a lock on the roster. It sucks to see a guy like that have such a brutal injury. Because once again, I mean, you don't, with those kind of injuries this late in the season, you don't know if he's going to be ready to come back. So.
I mean, I don't think that injury. He's not coming back from that this year. I
No,
mean,
not this year, but I
Hutchinson.
mean next year.
Oh, next year.
Like it was a
Yeah.
bad injury.
That reminded a lot of Hutch. That
Yeah,
like,
it did.
I mean, dang, dude. That was. I mean, you could put that up next to Hutch with how gruesome
Yeah.
it was.
I
So
mean, hopefully it's just bone. Hopefully it's no ligaments or anything were torn or anything, because that's when you start rolling over to the next year with those kind of injuries.
yeah,
And then another one, this was kind of a roller coaster ride. David Montgomery. He was originally reported that he tore his ACL and was going to be out for the season, or tore his MCL. And that when that news came out, this was after the Aleem Carlson Davis news came out. I mean, I was just gutted. I think everyone was.
yeah.
But he ended up getting like a third opinion or something like that. Like he got a met it with a bunch of doctors, and apparently it's not. And he didn't even get put on IR, which is a really good sign because that means they expect
That's
him.
amazing.
Yeah, they could expect him to be back before or for the playoffs. I mean, yeah, it's a huge news for Monty
And
because
his
he's
injury
such an
was
integral.
really weird. It was really weird too.
Yeah,
I
they brought
mean,
him back out on the
dang.
field.
Yeah,
He went down
that
and then they
made no
brought him
sense to me.
back. I don't know exactly what happened there. I like to wipe my memory clean of that game between the defense and the injuries. But
Yeah.
yeah, Monty, you saw that in the Bears game. I mean, Gibbs was struggling to punch it in. It took about like 4 tries for them to get that goal line
Yeah.
touchdown. I think the first one of the game. And yeah, I with Monty, that's in on the second try maximum. So hopefully you can get him back for the playoffs. Anything you
Yeah.
want to add about those injuries, those specific ones, before we move on to the rest of the transactions?
I mean, those guys are just gut punches. It's sad to see a lot of these guys who are key parts to our team who are, you know, I think especially Khalil Dorsey. I think he's going to go under the radar for his injury, but I mean, he's the number you call other than Vildor, and you know how both of us feel about Vildor. So
Yeah,
like,
I don't want him in the playoffs
he,
again.
I'd rather have Khalil Dorsey times 10 instead of Kendall Vildor. So I mean that's just a sucker punch to me because I'm gonna have to see 29 on the field sometime in the playoffs probably.
All right, moving on to what happened this week. There was a lot of transactions, to be honest. First off, Brandon Joseph and Maurice Alexander were both waived. Brandon Joseph, the safety, apparently got he was arrested with suspicion of drinking and driving. I'm not exactly sure how that played out, but he was waived. Maurice Alexander was just a he was a elevation due to the Khalif Raymond injury. I didn't really expect him to stick around. Then Mitchell Agude was signed to the active roster along with Tom Kennedy. Tom Kennedy will be on the Lions for the next 20 years. That guy just never goes away.
Yeah.
David Long, linebacker David Long, was waived, which was kind of surprising to me, but I don't know. Apparently they weren't very impressed with him. I saw that he was claimed by the Titans, which was his original team, and then he didn't pass his physical, so I don't know if we'll see him back on the practice squad. And then
Mhm.
today, Quan Alexander was also waived, which I mean, that kind of points in the direction that the linebackers, Jalen Reeves-Maybin and Alex Anzalone, are going to return soon. But
Mhm.
we'll see. And then the huge news today, the Lions have signed Teddy Bridgewater back to the 53-man roster. He
Yes.
won the state championship at Florida as a high school coach. He was talking about coming back, but I didn't know he was talking about this year.
Yeah.
I honestly
Yeah.
I like this move a lot. And Dan Campbell said that has nothing to do with Hendon Hooker. And while that's kind of true, I I have to disagree with a little bit. I like having a veteran on this roster because
Mhm.
I think Hendon Hooker's I don't have a problem. Like I'm not necessarily worried about him, but we've never seen him start a regular season game before.
Yeah.
If he gets, if Goff gets injured, God forbid, and Hooker just isn't ready yet, at least you have a guy in Teddy Bridgewater who can be a functional type quarterback. So
Mhm.
I don't really hate it. What do you think?
I don't hate it either. I mean, the way this season's going, I mean, golf going down is not out of the question, and you have to be prepared for that. And honestly, it's not too smart throwing a second year guy who hasn't started a game yet. So I really do like this signing. I didn't know it was coming, just like you. Like I I did hear about him going that he made a promise to his team, to go back to the league. But just like you, I thought it was going to be next year, and I didn't even know it
Yeah,
was going to be with the Lions. So
yeah,
yeah, that was kind of good news today.
yeah. That was interesting news, but like I s- like I sounds like we both agree with it. All right, and then the injury woes at least got a little better today or these last couple days. Jalen Reeves-Maybin practice window got open, and Khalif Raymond's window got opened for a return.
Nice.
I think both of those guys were full practices today. I'm not sure whether they're
Ooh,
going to play, but we'll see. But the linebacker, Jalen Reeves-Maybin is a huge one. I mean, the linebacker play has been really bad. And Buffalo was
yeah.
really, really bad. And in Chicago, I
Mhm.
wasn't really impressed with anyone outside of Jack Campbell, which was the only guy that really should have been out there, that you expect to be out
Yeah.
there. Uh, so yeah, and then I've also heard that Alex Anzalone is coming back relatively soon, which is great news because with him you get your two starting linebackers, Anzalone and Jack Campbell out there, which is big, especially against the better quarterbacks that you're going to face.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's about it for transactions and injuries. It was a long list, but at least you get some guys coming back. And now let's go on to looking around the NFC. The Lions finally got help from not themselves. The Commanders beat the Eagles 36-33. Jalen Hurts got hurt. Kenny Pickett came in, and then it kind of went how you'd expect it to go. The Commanders came back and won it. Does this change your opinion about the Eagles at all?
Um, I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people took, even you, I think a lot of people took Jalen Hurts for granted. I mean, this team, like, it's
Well, yeah, when you
dangerous
replace him
without
with Kenny
Jalen
Pickett,
Hurts.
like, come on.
Well, I mean, he's still the quarterback, and he's still a functional quarterback. So I think when it comes to Jalen Hurts missing, I mean that's gonna be something to look at. I mean it's a concussion, so he's gonna be back within a few weeks or a couple weeks or probably maybe even this week. But it does show you that they have a crack in their armor if they do lose a guy, and it does give me a little bit of promise. But I think again we're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the whole entire NFL. So I do think that this team can beat them handedly, even without Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I don't know. He's not a top 10 guy for me, but obviously, like Kenny Pickett is really bad. So when you replace him with Pickett, things are going to fall apart. But that's the thing to watch. I believe that. I don't think Hurts is going to play this week either. Good thing for the Eagles is that they play the Cowboys this week and the Giants next week. So at least, I mean, week 18 is probably an automatic W, regardless if you play, you know, Jalen Hurts' grandma at quarterback. The Giants are really bad. All
Hey,
right,
don't sleep on the Cowboys. They could possibly put up a
yeah,
game against
yeah,
them. I mean,
they
they're
beat
getting
the
better.
Buccaneers.
Yeah, but
Cooper Rush
probably not.
legacy run number two.
But yeah,
All right, the Vikings pulled it out against the Seahawks, 27-24. Man, Geno Smith. What are you doing? He threw it. I mean, they like their first play, like to win the game or to drive down the field and potentially tie or win. He threw an interception. I remember I was watching this game and I didn't even like. I was like I didn't even know the game was on. I just like or the game came back on and I looked up and I don't know who it was. Maybe Byron Murphy, but a Vikings player was running around with the ball. I'm like, dude, come on. The Vikings. I don't know. Like they. I it's hard to deny that how good they are. Like I think they're a good team, but like I don't know. I just think the Packers and the Eagles are better than them. Like I'd much rather face the Vikings and the Packers or the Eagles in the playoffs. Um,
hmm.
it just seems like one of these times, one of these close games is going to come and bite them. But I mean, props to Sam Darnold. They're good. They're a good team for sure. Uh, yeah. And so, do you think the Lions are the best team in the NFC after the
I
last week?
mean,
What happened with the loss and the Eagles lost this week? And
I think that now that they're getting healthier, they for sure are. I think there was a question about it, like before when we had a second string defense, which just shows you how strong this team is. I think now that we're starting to get healthier, and especially with with the linebackers, I think now we can say that we're the best team. Especially when the Eagles, like, when they got their guy injured, they lost. I mean, we still won with, all of our guys out. Even, we've only lost one game. So, yeah, I just think it's one of those things that you can't really say that the Eagles are just the best team in the NFC yet. Just from what they've been showing lately, that they
Yeah.
have cracks in their armor, especially against the Panthers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like as frustrated as I was about the Lions' performance against the Bills, I think it was more about the injuries for me. Like they lost, there was a one possession game against, the Bills, who are second, top two team in the AFC, top three team in the NFL for sure. So I always thought that was kind of that game was blown out of proportion. I mean, the Lions were due to lose eventually, but yeah, I
Yeah.
would say I think they're the best team in the NFC as well. I think they're a top three team in the NFL. I think that I think that the Chiefs, Bills, and Lions are all kind of in that a tier above everyone else, I would say.
For
But
sure.
yeah, so previewing next week outside of the Lions game, the Packers and the Vikings play at 4:25 on Sunday. That is a huge, huge game. Hopefully the Packers, I mean, I don't think I'll say it, go Pack go. Like I don't think I'll ever be cheering as much for the Packers in a game than I have in this one. Um, this is so talking playoff implications, the Lions played the 49ers on Monday night. So the Vikings will play first. If the Vikings win, then the Lions game against the 49ers doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
Unless I
I
know
mean,
there's some scenarios with ties. There's some scenarios with ties, but assuming that with wins and losses, that if the Vikings win, then it doesn't matter if we beat the Niners or lose to the Niners. Week 18 will be for the division and the one seed. Um, if the Vikings lose against the Packers, then the Lions can clinch with a win against the
hmm
49ers. So just a huge, huge game. And I'd like to allude to if the Week 18 game is for the division crown, I mean, this is the biggest, that would be the biggest Lions regular season game in my life. And I don't even think it'd be
yes,
close. That would be the
yeah,
Sunday night game for sure, the last game of the season. That would be a huge game. I hope that the Vikings lose so I don't have to deal with all of that. I just want the one seed and you get 2 weeks of rest if you need it. If Minnesota loses and Detroit wins, Week 18 won't really matter, and there will be a bye. But I'd be
hmm
interested to see how Dan Campbell does that because I don't know if he'd like rest all their guys. I'm not sure how that'd work. But do you have any predictions about that Minnesota game, Green Bay?
I mean, if there's gonna be a team that Minnesota loses to right now, like other than the Lions, it's gonna be the Packers on their schedule. So, I mean, they do have 2 games left. That was kind of dumb, but you know what I mean. Like, I
Yeah, I
think if
get
there's
it.
any other team in the NFL they are going to lose against, I think it's going to be the Packers because the Packers
Yeah,
look really darn good right now. Their
yeah,
defense is underrated. I mean, shutting
yeah.
out anybody in this NFL, in this league is really, really tough.
That was the
So,
first shutout of the year for any team against the
hmm
Saints. So yeah, I think, like I said, I mean, I think the Packers might be the last team that I'd want to face. In fact, I know they would be. I'd honestly, I'd rather face the Eagles than the Packers.
I'd rather face the Packers than the Eagles,
Yeah, I
but
think it's close, but I don't know. I think the Packers are the better team. Hopefully that prevails. Because
I don't
yeah,
have that much
it'd
love
be
for the
nice to.
Cheeseheads.
What'd you say?
I don't have that much love for the Cheeseheads.
Oh, neither do I. I mean, I wish I could come out here and say they're worse than the Bears, but no one's worse than the Bears. But
Yeah.
yeah, hey, see, right now Seattle's hanging in with them. That says more about Seattle. Hopefully, Seattle makes the playoffs, so we can play them because
Yeah. Well,
it,
hey, I don't know about the Seahawks, dude.
it's over.
Like,
It's over. We beat
I
them.
know we
The,
beat
the
them.
the
I know
streak is
we beat
over.
them, but like, Dude, I honestly, I like other than any NFC North opponent, I honestly hate the freaking Seahawks because
Well,
like
I
they
don't like
never
them
give us
either,
help.
but
They always like make us like force us to try to win a game. It's like I can't stand the Seahawks.
yeah, I mean, I don't like the Seahawks. I don't know. I don't like the Seahawks either, but I mean, it's 6-3 right now at halftime. They're beating the Bears. Like the
Jeez.
Bears defense is really vulnerable. I mean, the Lions have showed that both times. Um, all right, let's go around and see, how would we feel about these matchups in the playoffs, how we're feeling about these teams. So, I mean, Philadelphia, we already discussed that'd be a that'd be a tough game, obviously a game that you don't want to face. What do you think about Washington?
I think Washington, honestly, I think that might be a fun game to watch, but you need to be experienced to play against this football team and win against our team and win. I mean,
Yeah,
the two quarterbacks who won against us is Josh Allen, who's been in the league since 2018, and Mayfield's been here since 2017.
2018, they're
So,
in the same draft class.
oh yeah, 2018,
Yeah,
gee whiz.
both same
But
guys.
anyway, like you need a quarterback who's going to be able to,
Yeah.
like, not that Jalen Hurts can't, or not, gee whiz, not that Jane Daniels can't do anything and can't, challenge our defense, but just just the flow of the game, I think, and the game management. I don't know if Jaden Daniels has locked that down yet. So
Yeah. I'd be scared of Jaden Daniels, like facing him. Like it's more about the defense. The Washington defense is not good. Uh,
yeah.
that's where I think I would favor the Lions in that matchup. But yeah, I wouldn't want to face Jaden Daniels. But then again, these are all good teams. They're in the playoffs for a reason. We already talked about the
Hmm.
Lions and the Vikings. What about the Falcons?
Just skip the dang Falcons. I mean, you
Hey,
either
they're
got
they're
Kirk
winning the
Cousins
division. They're
behind.
leading the division right now.
Well, it's because everybody sucks around them. I
Well, I know, but
mean,
they're going to be in
like
the play. Yeah, I mean, okay. So you don't think the Falcons are going to make it past the first round? Because if
I
they're
don't
in,
think
they're going to have.
yes,
No, that's true. They're going to have to play what? I mean,
and
maybe like the Vikings.
The Bucks can still like
Yeah,
overtake them.
but here's the thing: the
So
Lions could easily be like the 3 seed. As much as it
yeah,
sucks, not easily, but
that's
they could be
freaking
the three
weird.
seed and be playing the. Actually, no, they wouldn't. No, no, no. Or they could be the 5 seed, and they. I mean, no, they could be the 1 seed, 2 seed, or 5 seed. So they could be the
Yeah.
5 seed playing the Falcons. That's a real thing. As funny as it is, Atlanta hosting that would be hilarious. But yeah, I think Penix is good, but I would favor the Lions heavily in a potential matchup with
Yeah.
them. Uh, yeah, that would be hilarious. I mean, that would suck so bad, like having to travel to Atlanta to play the Falcons. Because I
Yeah.
get how it works. I get how the NFL works with the division winners, but man, Tampa Bay, we've talked about this. This is a team that we do not want to play.
I don't
This
want
would
to
be
play
the
Tampa
fourth
Bay.
matchup in 2 years. That's basically a divisional opponent. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do not want anything with Tampa Bay. Although I like the Lions are better than them, but still, I mean,
Okay, what do you think is the optimal team to play against in the first round? Or if we were assuming we get the one seed, who do you think we would want to play? Because it's probably going to be from our division. Like I hate to
the
say it, but
Vikings. The Vikings.
it's
I
the
would
Vikings.
much rather face Sam Darnold than Jordan Love.
That's
Like
fair.
how like
That's
I
fair.
think the Vikings are good. I think they're a really good team, but I don't know. I don't really believe in them that they can that I don't think that they're on the level of even the Packers or the Eagles. I mean, I guess they're on that level, but I would
Yeah.
rather face the Packers or the Eagles. Or I would rather face the Vikings
Yeah.
than the Packers or the Eagles. I mean, yeah, next week we can get more to these scenarios. Two more teams that are in the playoff race. The Rams, I don't want to face them again in the
I
playoffs.
don't want to
I don't
either.
know same thing with the Buccaneers. I mean, we already beat them twice, and I don't want to have to deal with all the headlines again. It's over. Like, just please. But the Rams they're red hot right now. They're 9-6,
They
and
are.
they're a good freaking team. I mean, they got with Stafford and Nakua and Cup, like they're a good team. And
Hmm.
then the Seahawks, who there's been some bad history with the Seahawks, but that's a team I'm not really scared of.
You
I
think
don't,
we've turned the corner?
I think we have, and Geno Smith doesn't scare me. I mean, I've watched him. I watched him play the Packers 2 weeks ago, the Vikings last week. Like, I'm just not moved by Geno right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I for a first, yeah, I like if you're talking about if we get the 1 seed, you're talking about playing Minnesota or Green Bay, most likely. Probably Green. I mean,
Mhm.
probably Green Bay because Green Bay is gonna be the 6 seed.
This is
Mo
right
I
about the
mean,
time where I really, really wish the Bears were like were in the playoffs because like
yeah.
I,
I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, with the
like
playoffs and your scouting matchups, like I mean, the Bucks were a favorable matchup, especially in a divisional game last year. But the Bucks were a damn good team. Like
mhm.
it wasn't. I mean, the Lions it went down to the last pass with that
And
interception.
it's
I mean,
I think with the Bucks, like I would want to face them again just because they've seen us a bunch, but
yeah.
I don't know if that week 2 game was just because our offense wasn't really hitting, like even in the Rams game,
Well,
they
it's because we
weren't
went
hitting
one
that
for
well.
seven in the red zone. That's why we lost.
Well, yeah, but again, I don't know if that's just because our offense was getting adjusted because none of our guys, in the preseason, or if we just really were, struggling that badly against their defense. So I
Yeah,
don't know. I wouldn't want to face them again just because I don't want to risk with that. But if we do, we do.
yeah. I mean, hopefully for some reason, the Falcons win the division and then beat the. I don't know. I don't know exactly how it works, but hopefully we play someone more like the Falcons or the Seahawks rather than like the Packers or the Vikings. But there's still 2 more weeks left, so there's a lot of seeding. So let's move on to the Monday night game. Uh, it is a how do I put this? At the beginning of the season, I think the whole NFL might have circled this as the game of the year. I mean, I all of us Lions fans certainly did, and it is not that anymore. It might be
No.
like that to Lions fans, but the Seahawks are 6-9. They're in last place. They're in the NFC West. They're eliminated from the playoffs. Um, it's kind of nice though that the Lions get an easy non-divisional opponent because they haven't gotten one. It's been rough.
Mhm.
I mean, Chicago has been the worst team that they've played these last few weeks, but that's still a divisional game. And playing outside and playing at Soldiers Field isn't easy. But I don't know how you feeling about this game, just in general. Anything you want to touch over?
I mean, I think San Fran's offense can be sneaky sometimes, but I don't think the Flair's just not there anymore, man. And
No, they're
especially with
they're
how many injuries
decimated.
they have.
Yeah.
Like, I think George Kittle is still someone who's we're gonna have some trouble with, but if and Debo honestly didn't do play too bad against the Dolphins, so I I'm trying to find anything good to say about the Niners right
I
now, but
know.
honestly, when
It's
it's
it's so
six
weird
and
though.
nine,
It's so weird
like
because like I almost still want to count this as like a dangerous team, even though they're 6-9 and like
it's
eliminated from the
deceiving.
playoffs. Yeah, it is to talk about the Niners this way.
It's like playing Cam Newton, Bill Belichick, Patriots. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
you know
yeah,
you're gonna win, but like it's still Bill Belichick and
yeah,
Cam Newton.
yeah. That's a perfect example. I think the key in this game is to uh force Brock Purdy to make plays, send the pressure. I think that's
Yes.
the big key in this game. I'm gonna go over the injuries actually because I didn't do that. So with the Lions, everyone was a full practice. Terry and Arnold missed today because of an illness, and then David Montgomery's out, but we're not planning on. I don't think the Lions are planning on getting him back this week regardless. Hopefully Terry heals up, gets better
Hmm.
because he's CB1 right now. And
For
then
sure.
the I'll start with the Niners injury report because it is bad. Well, first off, they have Brandon Ayuk on IR. They put Trent Williams on IR. I saw that their guard Aaron Banks didn't practice today. Their fill-in left tackle, um, Spencer Burford didn't practice. Their starting right tackle was limited. Isaac Guerendo, who's their running back, is out or is sorry was limited practice. Sorry, I'm all over the place here, but they have so many injuries. trying to trying to catch up on all of it. And obviously their top three running backs were all out. McCaffrey's out for the year, Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason are all out. Dre Greenlaw didn't practice because of a calf injury. You have to assume that's because of his and has something to do with his injury because he just made his return. Talanoa Hufanga, the former All-Pro safety, was on the injury report. Leonard Floyd was limited practice. Like this team, like this is the injury bowl right here. The Lions versus the Niners because the Niners are pretty decimated. Which I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, once you read off those names, I mean, you can understand how the Niners aren't good this year. But like you said, I mean, it's Kyle Shanahan and like the Niners have been good. And this is an important game for the Lions. I mean, dare I say it? I mean, we haven't brought it up or we haven't brought it up somehow already, but obviously because of what happened in the NFC Championship game. Uh, this is a huge game for the morale of the team, I think, to
Yes.
come in here. And regardless of how San Francisco is, to go back and Levi Stadium. I almost call this Candlestick. Geez, I'm living in like 10 years ago. Levi Stadium and yeah, get the win. I this is a like even like with the Dallas game, how important that was as a revenge game. The Green Bay getting them back, the Seattle breaking that loss streak. This one is still the most personal in my opinion, just
For
because
sure.
the game was so devastating the end of that game. What do you have any keys to the game about how the Lions can win?
Um, I think you nailed it with Brock Purdy. I mean, I watch Brock Purdy a little bit just because he's, one of my fantasy quarterbacks, but man, I think Brock Purdy is a really good quarterback when he's on and when he's, in a rhythm. You don't want Brock to get into a rhythm and you don't want him running everywhere because I think that's what
Yeah.
hurt the Lions a lot in the NFC Championship.
Yeah, he ran a lot in that
Kind of
game.
opening up the middle. Yeah.
Hmm.
But if you force him to make, if you force him to, throw the ball on the run or make a really, really, 1 yard difference catch, uh, I think you can definitely lock down Brock Purdy to like under 200 yards for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's been rough for the Niners. They lost to the Dolphins 29 to 17 last week. Purdy had, he had a pretty good game, 313 yards, two touchdowns, but a pick. They lost to the Rams in that weird Thursday night field goal game the week before. Then they beat the Bears, but that doesn't count. They got annihilated by the Bills. And before that, they got annihilated by the Packers. So,
mhm.
yeah, like I said, this game's really important. And it's just weird. I feel like I'm valuing it so much more than it like needs to be valued. But
Yeah.
as
I
a
mean,
salty fan who watched his team collapse in the NFC Championship game, like this is similar to the Dallas game to me. Like I just want to beat the crap out of them. And
and
luckily,
definitely,
I mean, this team is. I'm not saying it will happen, but it's definitely possible with how injured this team is.
yeah. And I think what makes a huge impact, I mean, I think this is me just speculating here, but going to San Fran, I think makes a huge
Yeah,
difference. Because
yeah,
if
yeah, it does.
like if you're, I just keep going back to Amon Ra because I feel like he's kind of said the most about that game, and he just kind of felt like no way we freaking lose that,
Yeah.
no way we lost that game. He's gonna feel that immediately when he steps on that field.
Yeah, I mean,
So
last time they were on that field, I mean, I've seen pictures of JMO, Brian Branch, David Montgomery was, I remember there's a picture of him just like sitting in the end zone or by the field, by the
yeah,
goal post, just like, yeah, I mean, it's going to bring up it's good. It's the same thing with Dallas. I mean, I think you can
yeah.
compare this game to how Dallas was. It's going to be a lot of pissed off players. And that leads me into my non-score prediction. Actually, it is a score prediction, but not really. I think the Lions, I mean, I'll just say this. I think this is going to be a two plus possession game. The line
Mm,
is
yeah,
two and a half or three and a half. And I think that is, I don't think that's
obliterated.
enough. I mean, I think, I'm not saying like to win any game in the NFL is hard, but I feel pretty confident about everything aside, all the drama, everything aside. I think the Lions are very much better than the 49ers. I think they're more than a possession better than them. So that is I guess, my non-score scorish prediction that the Lions will cover the spread by a lot, I guess, at least 8 points. So what do you got?
I think for me, this prediction, it's just going to go back with making Brock Purdy suffer, to be honest. So
Yeah.
for me, I would go Brock Purdy under 200 yards.
Yeah, I mean that's not crazy. Um, Part of me thinks that they're just going to be throwing the ball, though. I mean, I'm looking at the stats last week, and Brock Purdy was the leading rusher against Miami. He had 26 yards. So I don't know. I don't know.
It's just a hunch.
Yeah, I know. I'm just bringing it up because I was kind of having the same thought, but this might be similar to the Bears game where they're going to have to start throwing early because the Lions' offense just is so much better than theirs. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Score prediction. I am going to say 27-17 Lions. Like I said, I think it'll be a pretty comfortable victory.
I
And
think that's pretty balanced.
yeah, and like I said, a big thing that's going to play into it is I know the returning Lions players are going to be pissed off about this game, and we saw that happen in Dallas. And I'm not saying that it will be it'll be like a 40-point victory like it was in Dallas, but you saw a team that clearly wanted it more. And the Lions
Mm-hmm.
have a lot more to play for, and they have a lot more reason to want to win this specific game against this team. So I'm predicting a comfortable Lions victory. What do you got?
I'm gonna go even more comfortable. I think our I mean, again, I think against a better Bears defense and worse weather conditions, we scored 34 points. I think we score over that. Like I'm thinking like 38. I'm gonna go into the 40s here. 42 to 24.
Yeah, it's a little rich for me, but I don't think it's ridiculous. Like I said, I think this team is a lot better than the Niners. And yeah, I don't know. That's not insane to me. I mean, it's a pretty crazy prediction to be honest, but I can see a scenario where that plays out. I wouldn't be surprised if this just isn't really a game at all. All right, you got anything you want to add? Anything else?
Look, if you are a Lions fan, just enjoy this game.
Yeah, yeah. I think you can say that about anything. Enjoy like this game, it's not like it's going to eliminate them from the one seed or, anything like that. Just enjoy regular season football a lot less because it's going to get stressful in the playoffs, especially now because
For
it's
sure.
not like last year where it's like, oh, you win a playoff game and everything else is gravy. I mean, the Lions are like Super Bowl or bust. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I know they're not like a win now team like that. If they don't win this year, they're screwed. But they're good enough to where the expectation is that you're good enough to win a Super Bowl. So hopefully the Packers win and the Lions can wrap the division up on Monday night. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, if you don't got anything else to add, let's go Lions.
Let's go Lions and FTV.
FTV.